Welcome back, Sister Wives crew. Take a deep breath. What you just heard was not a dramatization. It is the audio at the center of a firestorm that is about to tear the Brown family and what's left of their reputation completely apart. For years, we, the crew, have been asking the questions. We've been connecting the dots. Where did the money go? Why the constant financial panic? Why the endless string of rental homes while a multi-dollar, piece of land Kody Pass sits barren and unused? We've analyzed every episode, every awkward family meeting, every desperate plea for unity that always seemed to come with a price tag. We theorized, we speculated. But today the speculation ends. An atomic bomb has just been dropped on Kody Brown's carefully constructed empire. This isn't about ratings. This isn't about family drama. This is about cold, hard, deliberate fraud. And we have the details. A judge has just ruled against Kody in a devastating civil case, levying a staggering $1 million fine after a secret phone recording. That audio you just heard was played in open court. The judge's words. A calculated and deliberate act of fraud. Crew, this is the story you have been waiting for. This is the validation for every doubt you have ever had. The truth is finally out. And it is more shocking than any of us could have ever imagined. To understand the gravity of this $1 million judgment, we have to go back. We have to rewind the tape, not just on this leaked audio, but on the entire financial history of the Brown family. Because what this new evidence suggests is that the chaos wasn't a bug in the system. It was the entire feature. It was a smokescreen. Remember the move from Lehi, Utah? It was a frantic overnight escape from a supposed anti-polygamy investigation that strangely never seemed to materialize in any serious way. But what did that move accomplish financially? It liquidated their primary asset and threw their entire financial state into flux. It was the first major reset. Then came Las Vegas. For a time, it seemed like they had found stability. They built 4 beautiful homes on a cul-de-sac. The family, while still dysfunctional, had a sense of permanence. The wives had their own spaces, their own equity. They were building something, but Kody was never satisfied. The market turned and he saw an opportunity. They sold those 4 homes, generating a significant amount of capital. We, the viewers, were told this was the seed money for their new life, their utopia on Kody Pass in Flagstaff. This is where the official story and the story we are piecing together today begin to violently diverge. The official narrative, the one spoon-fed to us by TLC, was one of a family struggling to make their dream a reality. They buy a massive parcel of land, Kody Pass, for $1, a great investment, right? But then, nothing. For years, nothing. Instead of building, they start bleeding money on rental properties. Janelle is in an RV. Christine is in a cramped house she hates. Mary is isolated. And Robin. Robin and Kody are in home they purchased, while the rest of the family is told to sacrifice. We were told the money was tight. We were told they couldn't afford to pay off the land, let alone build on it. We watched Christine beg for the family to move back to Utah because the Flagstaff dream had become a financial nightmare. We watched Janelle break down in frustration over the lack of progress. We were led to believe this was all just poor planning. Kody's ADD business style, his inability to focus, his grandiose dreams crashing against the rocks of reality. But what if it wasn't poor planning? What if the financial struggle was the cover story? What if, behind the scenes, millions of dollars were being systematically diverted? This is the core of the lawsuit that just blew up in Kody's face. The plaintiffs didn't just accuse Kody of mismanagement, they accused him of running a shell game. And now? They have the proof connecting the dots, the insider reports. Over the past hours since this story broke, my sources, people who are connected to the business and entertainment world in which the Browns operate, have been working overtime, and what they are uncovering is astonishing. I want to be very clear. Some of what I'm about to share is coming from insider reports. These are not court documents yet, but they paint a picture that aligns perfectly with the judge's ruling. This is our exclusive theory based on connecting the dots that are now becoming visible. Our sources claim the problem began with the family's corporate structure. We all know about Kody Brown Family Entertainment, LLC. It's the company that presumably receives the checks from TL. But sources are now alleging that this was just the top layer. Beneath it, a complex web of other LLCs was created around the time of the move to Flagstaff. We're hearing names like Patriarch Properties, Dabsark Holdings, which, if you notice, is an acronym for Dayton, Aurora, Brianna, Solomon, Ariella, Robin, and Kody, and one particularly shadowy entity called CP Development Group, LLC. On paper, these companies were likely set up for legitimate reasons to manage assets, limit liability, purchase property. It's standard practice. But the theory our insiders are proposing is that these entities were used for something else entirely. They were used to move money, to create a financial maze so complex that no one, not even the other wives who were supposedly partners, could follow the trail. Think about it. Janelle Ono, who has always been portrayed as the family's bookkeeper, was increasingly sidelined in Flagstaff. In several episodes, she voiced frustration about not understanding their financial picture. She'd say things like, "I don't know where the money is coming from or where it's going. We thought it was just part of the drama." But what if she was being deliberately kept in the dark? What if her access to the main accounts was being slowly restricted while funds were being funneled through these new LLCs that only Kody and Robin had full control over? This is where the lawsuit came from. According to our reports, the suit was not filed by one of the wives. It was filed by a third-party investor group that was allegedly brought in during the early days of the Coyote Pass deal. This is a detail that was never mentioned on the show. The report states that Kody, in his classic salesman mode, pitched these investors on a grand vision for Coyote Pass. Not just a family compound, but a polygamy-friendly community development project with rental cabins, event spaces, the works. He sold them the dream. They allegedly invested a significant sum. Sources are saying it was upwards of $, to help get the infrastructure started. That money was supposed to be held in an escrow account managed by CP Development Group, LLC. For 2 years, the investors were given the runaround. Kody blamed zoning issues, city permits, family disagreements, all the excuses we saw him use on the show. But then the investors hired a forensic accountant. And what they found, or rather, what they couldn't find, was their money. It had vanished from the LLC's account. The power of proof, deconstructing the tape. The investors had a strong suspicion, but they had no smoking gun. Kody's defense was that the money was spent on legitimate pre-development costs, surveys, architectural plans, legal fees. He produced a mountain of paperwork, a blizzard of receipts and invoices designed to confuse and overwhelm. His lawyers argued it was a business deal that had simply soured due to unforeseen circumstances. It was a classic. He said, she said, until the leak. Let's talk about the tape itself. Where did it come from? We don't know for sure. The story is that it was sent in an anonymous email to the plaintiff's legal team just weeks before the trial was set to begin. It was a complete game changer. Let's listen to it one more time. Audio clip. It's simple. Just move the money before they see it. Crew, let's break this down like a Zapruder film. First, the voice. It's undeniably Kody. Voice print analysis experts were brought in and they confirmed 80% match, so there's no debating who is speaking. Second, the words move the money, not invest the money, not spend the money on development. Move it. That implies a transfer from one location to another, an act of concealment. Third, and this is the most damning part before they see it. Who is they? The prosecution in the civil case argued that they were the investors. Kody knew they were getting suspicious. He knew they were about to demand a full accounting of their funds. He had to get the money out of the CP Development Group account and into a different entity where it couldn't be easily traced. But we, the Sister Wives crew, have another theory, a much darker, more personal theory. What if they also meant Mary, Janelle, and Christine? Let's look at the timeline. The reports placed the date of this phone call just after the last of the Las Vegas homes was sold. The family accounts were briefly flush with cash from those sales, plus the alleged investor capital. This was the moment of maximum financial liquidity for the family. It was also the moment Kody and Robin made the down payment on their massive house in Flagstaff. Remember that episode? Christine was furious. The family was supposed to be pooling all their resources to build on Coyote Pass, and suddenly Kody and Robin are buying a mansion that benefits only them. Kody's excuse was that it was a temporary rental market play, but the numbers never added up. How could they afford that mortgage and the land payments and the other rentals? This tape suggests how. It suggests a deliberate, premeditated plan to secure a pot of money for himself and his favored wife before the other wives could lay claim to it for the family goal of building on their lots. The prosecution, using a subpoena, was able to get the banking records, and what they found was a direct correlation. Within 2 hours of the timestamp on that phone call, a series of wire transfers were initiated from the CP Development Group account, the total amount just over $1 million. The money was moved in 3 separate, staggered transfers to another LLC, the one we mentioned earlier, Dabsark Holdings, the one named after Robin and her children. From there, the trail goes cold, with the money likely being moved again to an even more obscure account. But the link was made. The instruction on the tape was followed by a direct, verifiable financial action. The smoking gun wasn't just smoking, it was still warm courtroom confrontation, the day of reckoning. This brings us to the courtroom. We have to paint a picture of this crew, because by all accounts, it was pure, unadulterated legal drama. Kody Brown, we are told, walked into that courtroom with all the swagger and confidence we've come to expect. He was flanked by a team of expensive lawyers. He was there to portray himself as the victim, a well-intentioned patriarch whose grand vision was being attacked by greedy partners who got cold feet. Robin, notably, was not in attendance. Sources say she was advised to stay away to avoid being called as a witness. For the first few days, Kody's defense held up. They drowned the jury in financial jargon. They presented charts and graphs. They argued that every penny was accounted for in the broader scope of the Flagstaff project. They were building a wall of reasonable doubt. Then the plaintiff's attorney stood up and announced they had one final piece of evidence to present. An eyewitness who was in the courtroom described the scene to one of my contacts. They said you could feel the air change in the room. Kody's lawyers immediately objected, but the judge, who had clearly been briefed on the evidence in his chambers, overruled them. He simply said the court will hear it. They brought in a sound system. The attorney, speaking slowly and deliberately, informed the court that they had an audio recording of a phone call made by Mr. Brown on a specific date, the same date as the wire transfers. The eyewitness said Kody's face went white. The swagger evaporated. He was seen leaning over and whispering frantically to his lawyer, who could only shake his head. The attorney pressed play. First, the static filled the room, and then Kody's own voice, the voice that had sold this dream to his family and his investors, echoed off the courtroom walls. It's simple. Just move the money before they see it, the eyewitness said. A literal gasp went through the gallery. Every juror, every person in that room, turned from the speakers and stared directly at Kody Brown. And in that moment, his mask of persecution crumbled. For the first time, he looked like what the plaintiffs had been claiming he was all along, a man who had been caught. His lawyer's attempt at damage control was reportedly a disaster. They tried to claim the tape was doctored. They tried to argue it was taken out of context. They even suggested that move the money was code for something else, a benign instruction about logistics. But the prosecution was ready. They put their forensic accountant back on the stand, who presented a simple devastating timeline. AM the phone call is made. AM the first wire transfer $4 is initiated from account A to account B. PM the second wire transfer $4 is initiated. PM the final wire transfer $4 is initiated. Total transferred million from an account. The investor's money was into an account controlled exclusively by Kody and Robin, named after their children. The context was undeniable. The timeline was a lock. The voice was his. There was no escape. The judgment: deliberate fraud. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. The verdict was a clean sweep for the plaintiffs. But the real fireworks happened at the sentencing when the judge delivered his final remarks. This is where this story goes from a civil dispute to something far more serious. I want to read you a direct quote that was leaked to us from the courtroom transcript. This is the judge speaking directly to Kody. Mr. Brown, this court has reviewed the evidence presented, and the narrative it tells is deeply disturbing. This was not a case of a business deal gone wrong. This was not a misunderstanding. The presence of the audio recording, combined with the clear and immediate financial transactions that followed, elevates this from mismanagement to malfeasance. It demonstrates a clear and premeditated intent to deceive. It is, in the eyes of this court, the very definition of deliberate fraud. Crew, those words, deliberate fraud. That is a legal branding that will follow Kody Brown for the rest of his life. The judge didn't stop there. He handed down the judgment, and it was designed to be a punishment. First, restitution. Kody, and by extension, his corporate entities, were ordered to pay back the full $1 million to the investors. Where that money is going to come from is anyone's guess. Coyote Pass is leveraged. The TLC money is their primary income. This is a financially devastating blow. Second, sanctions. The judge levied an additional hefty fine. We're hearing it's in the high 6 figures for obstruction and attempting to conceal assets during the discovery phase of the trial. The judge was essentially punishing him for the very act of moving the money that the tape proved he did. But the RD and most terrifying point for Kody is this: the criminal referral. The judge, believing that a criminal threshold had been met, has officially referred the case, including all the evidence, to the state's Attorney General's Office for Criminal Investigation. This means Kody could soon be facing charges of wire fraud and embezzlement. The civil case, the one about money, is over. The fight for his freedom may have just begun. This isn't about getting cancelled anymore. This is about going to jail. The aftermath? The Kody caught firestorm. As you can imagine, the moment this story broke, the internet exploded. The audio file, which was sealed as evidence, was inevitably leaked. Within an hour, it was everywhere. The hashtag #KodyCaught started trending worldwide. For us, the dedicated viewers who have spent over a decade watching this family, this news is a bombshell that recontextualizes everything. Every single financial complaint from Christine, Janelle, and Mary is now cast in a horrifying new light. Remember Christine's desperate plea to sell her house and get the money to move to Utah? She said she needed her share of the family's assets to start over. She was portrayed as being selfish, as abandoning the family. But what if she wasn't just trying to get her money? What if she was trying to get it before it disappeared? Remember Janelle, the pragmatic, numbers-oriented wife living in an RV on a patch of dirt, talking about how her financial future was tied up in a piece of land they couldn't even build on? Her frustration was palpable. We now have to ask, did she suspect that the funds to build had already been embezzled? And Mary, isolated and on the outs for years, constantly being told she was a financial burden, was that narrative pushed on her to keep her from asking too many questions about the family's real financial state? This tape validates their struggles. It suggests their concerns were not just emotional, but were rooted in a deep, intuitive understanding that something was fundamentally wrong with the family's finances. They were being gaslit not just by their husband, but by a fraudulent financial scheme that was happening right under their noses. And at the center of it all, we have to ask the billion-dollar question. What did Robin know? Is she the innocent, tearful wife, unaware of her husband's dealings? Or is she the mastermind, the Lady Macbeth behind this entire operation? The fact that the money was moved into an LLC named for her and her children is, to put it mildly, deeply incriminating. It suggests that this wasn't just about Kody enriching himself. It was about securing the future for his one true family at the expense of all the others. Cliffhanger and teaser for part 2. So a judge has ruled, a fine has been levied, a reputation has been shattered. But crew, I have to tell you, this is only the tip of the iceberg. The story is far from over. This civil case has cracked open a door that Kody Brown has kept locked and bolted for over a decade. And now the questions are bigger and more terrifying than ever. In part of this investigation, we are going to dive even deeper. We're going to explore the explosive question. Who was on the other end of that phone call? Who was Kody giving that instruction to? The answer will shock you. We are going to present new reports about where that $1 million actually went. The Dabsark LLC was just a way station. We have theories on the final destination, and it points to a level of premeditation that is truly chilling. We'll also ask, what does TLC know? How could they film a show about this family's finances for years and not see the red flags? Were they complicit, or were they just another one of Kody's victims? And most importantly, we will break down the potential criminal charges Kody is facing. We've spoken to a legal expert who will explain what a wire fraud investigation looks like and what the very real possibility of prison time would mean for the future of the Brown family and the Sister Wives show. This scandal is still unfolding in real time, and we will be here to connect every single dot for you. The fallout from this is going to be immense, and you will not want to miss what comes next. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. Hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. You need to be here for part until then. Stay strong, crew. The truth is finally coming to light. In part 1, the Bombshell dropped a secret audio recording. Kody Oldclip said, "It's simple. Just move the money before they see it. $1 million civil judgment. A judge's damning words. Deliberate fraud. And a criminal referral that threatens to send Kody Brown to prison." The hashtag Kody Caught exposed a story of financial betrayal that recontextualized a decade of lies. Welcome back, Sister Wives crew. If you thought part 1 was shocking, I need you to prepare yourself. The story doesn't end with the verdict. That's where it begins. The fallout from the Kody Caught tapes has been a catastrophic earthquake, and the aftershocks are now exposing fissures that run deeper than any of us could have ever imagined. Since our last report, our sources have been working around the clock, piecing together the next layers of this conspiracy. The questions we were left with were haunting. Who was on the other end of that call? Where did the millions truly end up? And what did the network, TLC, know? Today we have the answers, and they are terrifying. We are venturing deep into the territory of exclusive theories and insider reports. But the evidence trail, as faint as it is leading us to inescapable conclusion. This was not a one-man job. This was a conspiracy. And the final destination of that $1 million points to a chilling end game for the Brown family. Settle in. This is the deep dive you've been waiting for. The second voice, the accomplice. The single most asked question after our last report was this. Who was Kody talking to? Who was the person on the other end of that phone call tasked with the order to move the money? His lawyers tried to argue in court that he was talking to a financial advisor, giving a legal and legitimate instruction that was simply misconstrued. But the timing and the secrecy of the call made that defense crumble. For the past week, this has been the central mystery. Did he have a secret accountant? A corrupt lawyer? Was he talking to Robin? The prosecution in the civil case didn't need to prove who he was talking to. They only needed to prove that he gave the order and the money was subsequently moved. But for us? For understanding the true scope of this, the identity of the accomplice is everything. Now, a credible report from a source very close to the Brown family's inner circle has given us a name, and it's a name that makes perfect, sickening sense. The source alleges that Kody was not speaking to a professional. He was speaking to a family member, someone with a background in business and finance, someone deeply loyal to Robin, and someone who has a vested interest in her financial security. The source claims the person on the other end of that phone call was Robin's brother, Paul Sullivan. Now we have to be extremely careful here. This is a serious allegation from an anonymous source. But let's connect the dots and see why this theory is so compelling. Who is Paul Sullivan? To most viewers, he's a non-entity. He's not on the show. But those who have followed the family's business dealings for years know that he has been a ghost in the machine for a long time. Public records show that Paul Sullivan was listed as an agent or officer on several of the Browns' earlier, now-defunct business ventures, including some related to their My Sister Wife's Closet jewelry line. He has a business degree. He has experience with setting up LLCs and managing corporate accounts. More importantly, he is Robyn's blood. His loyalty isn't to the Brown family as a whole. It's not to Mary, Janelle, or Christine. His loyalty is to his sister. Our source alleges that Paul became Kody and Robyn's de facto off-the-books financial fixer after the move to Flagstaff. As Janelle was being pushed out of the financial loop, Paul was allegedly brought in to handle the more sensitive transactions. He was the perfect cutout. He wasn't on the TLC payroll, so he wasn't subject to their contracts or scrutiny. He was family, so he could be trusted, and he had the know-how to navigate the very maze of LLCs he allegedly helped Kody create. Let's re-listen to the tape. But this time, imagine Kody is not talking to a subordinate, but to a co-conspirator, his brother-in-law. Audio clip. It's simple. Just move the money before they see it. The tone changes, doesn't it? It's not just an order. It's a strategy session between two people who are in on the plan together. It's simple. Kody is reassuring him that their plan is working, that the complex web they've built will be easy to manipulate. Just move the money. A direct, actionable instruction before they see it, before the investors, before the other wives, before anyone can catch on. This theory, if true, transforms the crime. It's no longer just Kody acting alone in a moment of panic. It suggests a carefully planned conspiracy between Kody and a member of Robyn's family to systematically defraud the other wives and their business partners.